What is going on, guys? Welcome into Rover Sports here. Got my Baker Mayfield shirt here. Cleveland Browns quarterback, so I'm rocking his jersey today. Today we had Big Ten Media Days going down in Chicago, Illinois. And I just wanted to call my shot on a couple of head coaches that, I'm really impressed with in the Big Ten. I wanted to make this clear that this is a PJ Fleck podcast. And I believe in everything that Coach Fleck is doing at Minnesota, the whole row the boat, the whole day by day mantra of getting better socially, spiritually, and athletically. And the thing about Coach Fleck is that he targets jobs that aren't high-profile jobs because he's been an underdog his whole life. He's the king of the twos. He's too small. He's too short. He's too, he didn't have any Division I offers himself, so he's not the authority. And that's what makes Philip John Fleck that elite. And the way he was at Western Michigan, he went 1-13 his first season, and then he turned that around to parlay that into going 13-0, going to the Cotton Bowl, winning an Idaho Potato Bowl at Western Michigan. And this was a program in Kalamazoo that was kind of on its last leg. So what PJ Fleck did at Kalamazoo, turning Corey Davis into an unbelievable player to play in the NFL, a guy who's going to tear it up for the Tennessee Titans, a top 5 pick who went to Western Michigan. PJ Fleck absolutely loves the state of Minnesota. He loves Minnesota football. And Minnesota football is going to build itself into a juggernaut. I wouldn't be surprised if in the next 5 years Minnesota is playing for the college football playoff, if Minnesota sneaks into the national championship picture. They're definitely, if you look at the Big Ten West, they're going to leapfrog Iowa for sure because Iowa's stuck in the past with Kirk Ferentz. Iowa's going to end up firing Ferentz in like 5 years. Kirk Ferentz is the most overrated coach in college football. He can never really win on the road. He has no real identity. He hires everybody in his family. He runs Iowa like a feudal lord system. Nebraska is another team that is going to be fantastic in the Big Ten because I totally believe in Scott Frost. I believe in coaches that go undefeated at previous stops, and Scott Frost has done that. He did that at the University of Central Florida. Scott Frost is young. He connects to his players. He's able to run a modernized offense everywhere he's been successful. And at Northern Iowa, Scott Frost was also a defensive linebackers coach. So he played cornerback, I think, for the Patriots. And then at UNI, he was a guy that coached on the defensive side of the football. So this is a guy that knows exactly what is difficult for defenses to have to guard against. Scott Frost is having morning practices. This is another great addition to Nebraska that Scott is bringing in because he believes that you should start your day early. And the odds of a player missing class if they are waking up early to practice, that the morning practices get your blood flowing early. And PJ Fleck and Scott Frost, they're both early risers. So you look at Scott Frost, he had Mackenzie Milton. He recruited him. He recruited Mariota. He has Adrian Martinez now. These are guys that can process information really quickly. And Scott Frost knows how to play the quarterback position. He knows how to run offense. So Scott Frost is going to be for Nebraska. Nebraska is going to be the new Ohio State. They're going to be back. A lot of people, the last couple of years thought that the glory days of Nebraska had passed them by, that you can't recruit kids out to Lincoln anymore. The college landscape has changed. Kids have changed. They won't come to Nebraska. I think that that's totally a bunch of horse shit. The thing is about Scott Frost is he's going to get his guys to He's going to get guys from all over the country to come out and play in Nebraska. He's going to develop the black shirt program. He's going to develop kids like Danny Woodhead that in the past went to Chadron State. And he's going to get kids. He's going to get one of the best walk-on programs in the entire country at Nebraska, where kids from Grand Island, kids from North Platte, kids from all over the state, even southern Nebraska, Kearney, everywhere. They're going to want to play for Scott Frost. They're going to want to play for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. And Nebraska, again, is going to rise. Now, I'm not sure if it's going to happen this year. Because Nebraska, they still have Mike Riley players. Their defense, the worst defensive coordinator that I've ever seen, is now a guy who's working at Oklahoma. His name is Bob Diaco. He was a disaster at Connecticut, and he was certainly a disaster at Nebraska. He talked about strain. He talked about the tackling technique. He's a funny guy, man. He's one of a kind, Bob Diaco. Not the best defensive coordinator, but a guy that, you can kind of go out and he's just a funny dude. But I think Nebraska and Minnesota are going to win national championships. I think PJ's going to win a national title in the next 8 years. I think Scott's going to win one in 8 years. I think Michigan is going to be okay. They're going to be a little more inconsistent. It depends on how Cade McNamara plays for Michigan. It depends how Shea develops this year. It's all about the quarterbacks there, because the defense, Jim Harbaugh's got a really good defense. And it's up to Pep Hamilton, it's up to Jim if they're going to be able to change that around. But then you look at Purdue. I don't think Purdue is going to be a powerhouse, because defensively I don't think Purdue is going to be very good. I think that they're an all-offense team. I think Illinois is kind of stuck, with Lovie Smith. And then you look at Northwestern. I think that with Hunter Johnson, they'll be a solid 8-9 win team there with Pat Fitzgerald, but not the most creative and dynamic offensive attacks that they're running at Northwestern. But overall, the coaches in the Big Ten are very good. A program that I see dropping off is I see Penn State really dropping off, because with James Franklin, they had Joe Moorhead, they had Saquon Barkley. It was just kind of a magical year, but James Franklin really struggled with Christian Hackenberg. Just a couple of years ago, Penn State, they were going to run James Franklin out of Penn State, and right now Franklin's his stock is really high and Jim Harbaugh's is low. So if you're buying stock in college football, what you should do is you should you should buy Jim Harbaugh low and sell James Franklin right now, because I think Franklin's going to drop like a rock. You look at Urban Meyer's stock, Ohio State. I think Ohio State is kind of trending downward. Mark D'Antonio at Michigan State, I'd say that they're teetering. That stock is going to be consistent, but it's not going to ever go up to a championship level like Minnesota and Nebraska. So Minnesota and Nebraska are going to leapfrog Michigan State in the Big Ten. Rutgers with Chris Ash, I don't believe in that program at all. That's a dumpster fire to recruit to. Maryland's on a little bit of an uptick, but they're not going to be completely a special program. They're not going to ever amount to really anything that PJ and Scott Frost are building. PJ and Scott Frost are going to be the best Big Ten coaches. Urban's still going to roll for maybe 3-4 more years. And listen, with Urban Meyer, you pray for Urban to, continue to stay healthy and, continue to perform, because what he dealt with at Florida is very, very serious. And for Urban, it's just, sometimes I think the problem with Meyer is that he takes in kids that are too much trouble, and he takes in project kids, and really the kids have problems off the field, and they come on the field, and they're good on the field, but off the field, he just doesn't really have control of the program. That's why you see a lot of kids at Florida that were kind of problem kids that he always had there. So he's going to bring in talent, but he's not going to control it to the best of his ability. He sticks with loyalty almost to a fault, like with JT Barrett there. JT Barrett was a guy that was never going to win Ohio State. He never was going to take that offense to the next level. And it proved that way in their loss to Iowa. It proved that way the way that Penn State also ran over Ohio State. Ohio State has very good cornerbacks, but the hiring of Greg Schiano was an odd hire. even though PJ loves Greg Schiano. So when I look at Ohio State, I think that Ohio State is just going to completely, they're not going to fade out. They're still going to be the elite of the Big Ten. I look at Ohio State and Urban. It's going to be a 4 to 5 year thing with Urban. I don't know if I see him staying there for 10 years. But for PJ and Scott, I see that thing almost being like a Tom Osborne-like dynasty with Scott Frost. And at Minnesota, PJ's going to load, and that program is going to be Ohio State in a couple of seasons. Michigan is going to have its highs. It's going to be okay for some years. It's not going to be a consistent winner like Minnesota and Nebraska. So that's kind of how I look at the Big Ten, how I look at the entire conference here, as the entire conference has migrated to the Chicago area for a couple of days of media sessions. Penn State is going to fall like a rock under James Franklin. Their fans, are the most stubborn, really stubborn fan base there at Penn State. So I think Penn State's going to go in, because Joe Moorhead has left and Moorhead spearheaded that thing. And I'm excited for Penn State. I'm not a Penn State guy, and I can admit that, Saquon was good, but I think that Penn State is going to fall like a freaking rock. So, and for that, I'm kind of excited about that, honestly, because, I know a lot of people who go to Penn State, and, it's kind of an annoying little program. I know that there's a lot of fans. It's a very cliche program to like if you live in Pennsylvania, and I try not to be cliche. So anyway, thank you guys for following Rover Sports. I appreciate y'all, and take care. Have a great day. Listen to my podcast. My podcast is out on Anchor. If you subscribe, get the numbers up. It's going to make for really good stuff. So thank you guys. Take care. Have a great, great day, and I'll try to be back with you guys in a little while.